Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another Bulletproof for BJJ podcast. Today, we are talking about the colossal match between the $1 Million grappler, Nicky Rod, and previous world champion, Victor Hugo. The match that was meant to happen, all the things that happened, what's the result, what's it mean? Also, we talk about the huge match which occurred in the UFC between Alex Pereira and Ankalaev. And what does that mean now for the world of the UFC? We also unpack this a little bit more to discuss how success can affect the performance of an athlete and what that can mean for anybody trying to be successful and improve in jiu-jitsu. Let's get into it now. Also, while you're there, you're watching the show. We know you watch for a little while, but you're not subscribed. That's cool. We can respect it. But if you can do us that small favor of just taking the 5 seconds, hit that subscribe button. We would appreciate it. It will bring much good karma your direction. God damn! Victor Hugo beats the $1 Million grappler, Nicky Rod. Dang.
And puts Lucas Kennard in position as the world's best.
Pound for pound. Heavyweight millionaire grappler. Oh my God.
Nicky Rod owes Lucas $1 million.
Well, people are saying that Lucas owes Victor $1 million.
Wait.
Because Lucas beat Victor Hugo. If he hadn't beaten him, he could have gone through and beat. Yeah, right.
So just on that.
Just for context.
Fight Pass was on the weekend.
What are we talking about? UFC Fight Pass.
Nicky Rod, the CJI, last year's
champion,
CJI winner.
The $1 Million grappler.
Yeah.
It went to overtime, right? So spoiler alert, if you didn't watch it, the highlights are all over the internet. And look, it was Victor Hugo.
Did you watch the match? I didn't. I
seen
just saw highlights. Yeah.
No. But I've kind of watched different grabs, right? Lots of people illegally. I've watched a lot of people like just filming on their phone. I didn't pay for the UFC Fight Pass, but from what I could see, it was a lot of like half guard stuff from Victor Hugo, which he's amazing at, and Nicky Rod trying to get the body lock.
Right.
Like a lot of that. Not a super eventful match. But in overtime, using a bit of old mate no-gi judo, a bit of uchi flip, was able to kind of bring Nicky Rod down. And in that moment, kind of as anything, like you get that scramble point where you're not quite, the takedown was not secured, but Nicky Rod's instinct is to come up and wrestle. But in the process of him trying to come up to wrestle, Victor Hugo jumps on his back. And then it's pretty quickly game over from there. And yeah, man, I think all things said and done, Victor Hugo is a big, strong human. And
unit.
I don't know if Nicky's getting pushed physically. I don't know if there's many big heavyweights smashing Nicky Rod. A lot of the talk out of B team is how hard it is to deal with Nicky Rod.
Right.
And so this is the curse of being the biggest, strongest grappler in your gym.
Just for clarity on the Lucas Kennard mention.
Yes.
He beat Victor Hugo
via heel hook
within 20 seconds at CJI. So that was, hence the thing. And Victor Hugo was like a big favorite to get to the final.
It was for sure the biggest upset of the tournament.
It was, right. It's after Nicky Rod's performance in CJI, he submitted everyone.
I believe he took the back and choked everybody.
Yeah,
he competed against.
Even if he didn't submit he was dominant. Like he never looked in trouble the whole thing.
No.
And the way he won and the composure he came in, it was just like, oh my God, this dude's on another level right now. And so then when you see someone like that lose, you're like, oh shit, they can lose.
Yeah, and but I think this is the thing also. Different people have different, styles make fights, right? Like people have kryptonite. What I've seen consistently in no-gi jiu-jitsu is someone who has really good no-gi jiu-jitsu, really elite no-gi judo, dealing with wrestlers quite well.
Right.
Like if someone is the better wrestler, that they will do better. But if someone has really elite judo skills, and you see it a lot more now, like hip tosses, uchimatas, like even with the Rotolo brothers, they do a lot of kind of stand-up no-gi judo stuff. And it's very effective. And so a lot of people are like traditionalists are like, oh, like it's a It's a win for the gi because very traditionally Victor Hugo was a gi champion.
Right.
And under Shanji and, all of that.
Yeah.
So what does this mean for jiu-jitsu right now? Is Victor Hugo the number one guy? Like, could we see, could they run it back? Or could we see a match between Gordon Ryan and Victor Hugo? Like, what does that look like? Is Gordon still in the picture?
I haven't heard anything about Gordon since ADCC.
Yeah, I mean, he's kind of off the radar a little bit. He's still training. Like, there's plenty of footage of him training. I'm just not sure how healthy he is, et cetera, et cetera. But New Wave is in for CJI 2. That is confirmed.
Wow, they have a team.
Yeah.
So CGI 2 is going to be team's event.
Team's event.
And so Gordon will, you would assume he's going to be in
You would guess that's possible.
That's huge.
And
there's no ADCC this year, is there?
No, there's not.
Every 2 years.
Yeah.
What a time. What an opportunity for CJI.
Oh, mate. Team's event, quintet. Yeah, it's going to be great.
If you've never seen quintet, it's my favorite grappling event ever. Watch it. You get it. Maybe, so hopefully CJI is probably going to be somewhat close to that.
And in my opinion, some of Craig's best work. If you look at Craig's run when he was
against 10th Planet?
Well, not 10th Planet, against
the
the Russians
in a row.
The Sambo team, whoever the they were.
Yeah.
He ran a train on those guys, broke all their legs.
Wow.
They were like, leg locks don't work against Sambo guys. Bro, hold my beer. That, shout out on that, man. If you go back and you just put in Craig Jones,
destroys Russian mobsters?
No. That might be something different. That's a different, you might not be able to find that on normal YouTube. But no, it's just quintet's a great format.
Exciting.
And so another thing happened on the weekend. Boom, boom, boom. Poatan loses to Ankalaev.
Why'd you have to bring that up?
Well, I just want to spoil your day joke. No, I think this is a chat about what success can do to a person. And we all know it. It doesn't mean their skills aren't there. We have seen Alex Pereira just do amazing cyborg level shit, and he didn't look like he showed up on the weekend. That would be, he was eating shots. Like, he didn't look his normal, like, Terminator-esque coming forward. Like, even when he was taking shots from Khalil Roundtree, he was coming forward. He was eating them and come.
They weren't having an effect.
He wasn't backing up.
Yeah.
And he wasn't slowing down.
Yeah, it looked, again, I only saw highlights, but it looked like Ankalaev was, like, piecing him up pretty well.
First round, Pereira looked good. It was like, oh, okay, Pereira's going to win. He slowed right down, man, and just got slower. And it just, obviously he's tough as hell. But, I believe that if we and look, maybe it is a style thing. But I think you look at that and you go, what has Alex Pereira not done in the last 10 years? The guy has just won. He's just winning everything. It would be very difficult to expect that he wouldn't at some point have a little dip. I'm not saying it's the end, but the sponsor of today's show is Sodi. Sodi is the best hydration salts you can get. Now, if you're about convenience, you can get the sachet, the baggie, flavor, pineapple. Or if you're about the value and the control, you go with the tub, another great option. If you want to improve your performance for jiu-jitsu on the mat, get Sodi, get hydrated, sodi.com.au and use the code Bulletproof15 for 15% off. Shoo.
No, that's right. It's, as a fan, it's that odd thing that happens, like I said, with Nicky Rod, where you just kind of get used to them winning.
Yeah.
And then they don't win. You're like, what went wrong? And you're like, they can't win forever.
No.
Yeah. And because it takes a toll, right? To especially him, the way he would show up, he was so consistent. He had his whole ritual, the firing an arrow thing and screaming, which is sick.
It's boss.
He's got this whole thing. He's like super consistent, like a cyborg.
Yes.
You're like, this motherfucking robot. That takes energy to be that every time, doesn't it?
But he's had wild level, like since being the champion and being where he is now, the level of endorsements he has, the level of, I don't know what's going on in his private life. I'm not saying he's partying, but you could not help but think once you hit a certain level of money, recognition, and distraction that comes with success, then maybe your eyes off the prize a little bit.
Yeah, it's probably harder to have the focus and perhaps intensity that you once had.
Yeah, you're not like...
Because that was all you had.
That's
back
all
then.
it was.
Yeah.
And, I think the same could be said for Nicky Rod. Like, if he truly believes, like, oh, no one's going to touch me now, there's a certain level of lack of hunger there that you think you've arrived. And it's like, maybe there's somebody lurking in the shadows who's coming to steal your lunch. And I think that we did see that. And if I put, me, Joe, I like to take some random points and reference points and cobble them together into some kind of semi-cohesive idea/narrative.
Yeah.
You listen to all the guys at B Team and no one is pushing Nicky Rod. I mean, they've got plenty of good big guys there. They got Jay Bear, they got Declan Moody. It's not that they don't have big, good guys, but no one bigger than Nicky and no one better than him.
Yeah.
To push him, right? And I think what you would see with Victor Hugo is he's surrounded by plenty of very good, very big training partners who can physically push him.
Right.
And this is maybe a weakness in... Because it's something else that's kind of observed, like I've spoken to a few people who have been in the Roca training room and they just talk about how big it is.
That's Danaher's crew,
Danaher's crew, right? It's a big guy gym.
Right.
Right? And I'm not saying
Griffith,
Marangali, Gordon, Gio,
Dan Menasoyu,
Bordoni.
Yep.
Right, like, and who's the Japanese judo champion? Who has
Satoshi Ishii.
Satoshi, oh my God, that guy's a monster, right?
Yeah, a brick with eyes.
He's got a head like that coffee table, bro. Yeah. It's wild.
Big units.
The smaller units in that room have suffered. Their training hasn't done as well. If you go to B Team, there is a greater amount of lighter weight humans in that room. The smaller grapplers, like the lighter weight grapplers, have done dramatically better.
Yeah.
And it's not that, Nicky Rod's not doing well. He was able to beat so many heavyweights. But I wonder if him having a lack of bigger, stronger, just as good people to push him might be his limiting factor. And I think the same...
That's a fair question.
The same could be true maybe of Poatan. Like, how many people can push Alex Pereira in sparring? All. Like, it would be difficult for them to find people, I believe. Like, I've only seen some training clips of him sparring, but short of him just doing pure boxing against a pure boxer or him doing just pure kickboxing, not MMA training, against like a heavyweight kickboxing champ, it would be difficult to find people to push you. Whereas I'm sure there is untold leagues of heavyweights in Dagestan that are just, fighting to the death to see who's the best. And Ankalaev comes up as being the best of those guys.
Yeah, it's a fair question for sure. It's got to be a challenge, huh? When you're like one of the bigger cats.
And the best. Like, undisputably one of the best in the world.
Yeah.
So... yeah, man. I mean, it's sad to see. I don't really have a horse in the race, really. I don't care who's the heavyweight champ is for jiu-jitsu or MMA or like middle heavy, should we say? But it is interesting to see that there is like a bit of a change, and maybe this makes the game more interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sad legitimately to see Poatan lose the belt because I love that guy, and it's such a hill to climb in MMA, isn't it? Like,
to be the champ,
to try and return to it's just so hard to try and get the belt back. But for Nicky Rod and I think it's awesome actually. Like, I'm like, yeah, because I was spewing for Victor Hugo at CJI.
Yeah,
I was cheering for Lucas, right?
Yes.
That was amazing. But you're like, I really like Victor Hugo. It was a shame that he just didn't get to show his jiu-jitsu. And so this is like, yeah, a new player has entered the game.
It opens it back up.
Yeah, makes shit exciting.
Yeah, and I think that this is often the problem when you get one single dominant champion. Even though people like to like bet on that favorite, it makes the game not as interesting.
Yeah,
and so now with a bit of mixing it up, a bit of diversity, I think it's open, and that means the next 12 months can be very interesting for both MMA and jiu-jitsu.
Boom, boom.
There it is. Now, if you like to hear us talk and ramble and you've gotten to this point in the video, please like, subscribe, follow. It means a lot to us, helps us, and we appreciate it.